My name is Nina Miskovsky, and you're watching Eliot Kelly TV. Never lose your passion.
The financial system imposes its own fears into the system.
Welcome to another dynamic episode of Eliot Kelly TV. We have with us our distinguished guest is Richard Kiernicki. He has been a very good friend of ours. He's also written a book. It's called The Capitalist Worst Nightmare Come True. Before we go into what inspired you to write the book and we talk about a world without money, tell us, what is your story?
Well, thank you very much. And it's a real treat to be on your show, Eliot, with such esteemed other individuals that you've had on your program. So it's a true honor to be here, and thank you for your interest in my work. Very quickly, I'll just tell you that I was very fortunate as a person who was very open-minded about exploring life. I was a high school dropout. I did a 7,750-hour apprenticeship in automotive mechanics. I still really enjoy old classic cars and playing with them. That's more of a hobby. I got into the investment business when I was 24 years old, which was just an absolute complete departure from everything else that I had really ever had known. I knew nothing about the money business. And I recognized very early in my career getting involved that there were different ways to play the game. And a lot of people must feel very comfortable in the context of the size, so to speak, of the business, versus as an example, okay, the independent. So the captive companies are the big ones, okay, and they indoctrinate you in their own particular way. And then there's the independents that have, in essence, pulled away, and in some cases, many of them have an opportunity that goes beyond the inflexibility of the larger firms. But in any event, I was very lucky. I got invited to join a company, and I received, and in fact, I got my mutual funds and my securities licensing and my insurance licensing so I could go out and do my job. And I felt one thing about my business was that with my integrity, my personal level of integrity, I figured at the very least I would leave people better off financially than before they had met me. And I'm sure maybe you can appreciate the financial system is a very complicated system. We have to have, as a general rule, all sorts of degrees and acknowledgments about our work in the context of the professionalism of the financial world. And I'm all for that at one particular level. But on the other side of it, I was very fortunate to be mentored by some of the best financial minds in the entire world industry. Sir John Templeton was an amazing mentor at the beginning of my career in the 1980s, followed by Peter Cundall and a wide array of other financial, Warren Buffett, Benjamin Graham, of course, we taught Warren Buffett. And then in the late 80s, after the 1987 market crash, in 1988, I met a gentleman named Michael Lee Chin who asked me a very profound question. And he asked me at a financial show right after the 87 market crash, and he said, Richard, how are you going to differentiate yourself from 3,500 people here in the city of Toronto doing what you do? And I started to laugh, Eliot. It was just so much fun. And he looked at me and he said, why are you laughing? This is the most serious question I ask people. And I said, Mike, if I knew how to differentiate myself, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you. I'd be out doing it. And he looked at me and he said, Richard, that's one of the best answers that I've ever heard for my question. And I said, great. I said, so we're on the same page. He said, yes, I want to just tell you something that you might find of extreme interest. And I said, sure. And he said, Richard, 97% of the people in our industry, they sell milk to their clients. I'm going to teach you how to sell your clients to cows. And that day, my light, if you will. I spun a full circle because I understood intrinsically, more so than anything else that I had been exposed to up till that time, that there was a method to the madness. And he understood what that method was. And we grew a company called AIC from $9.5 million in 1988 when I was there, to the day that I decided it was time to leave the business and, if you will, take my money and run. And that happened in April of 2003, so just about a little over 15 years later. And I watched our assets grow from that humble 9 million to about $13.5 billion in assets under administration. And I decided that it was time to pack up and leave the business. And I'm actually really happy that I did that. But sooner, in fact, 5 years after I retired, I wanted to go back into the business. My children were off to university, and I had time on my hands. So I thought I would go back and get into the industry, except for the 2008 global financial crisis was upon us. And subsequently, I was reading the paper on October the 18th, 2008. I was sitting at the table, having a cup of coffee, and I read the words, "Wanted, a new world economic order." And it caught my attention. I read the article, and I immediately knew that the person that was going to write this new world economic order was going to be me. I had no idea what I was even thinking about at that time. But I started to write about my experiences in the financial business, and I started to dig really deep as to, was my integrity in the right place while I was in business? How can I help other people? Because when I wanted to go back to the corporate side of the industry in 2008, nobody was thinking that they were going to survive into 2009. So it was an absolutely amazing time to be in the business, but there was a lack of leadership again. So I recreated a program that I called the Laws of Wealth, and subsequently used Michael's input into my life and into my career about differentiating myself, and put that into a package after studying Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, all the motivational gurus. And I set myself up a program that I thought would be of service to other advisors who, in a time of challenge and change, were not getting the type of support to run their businesses and expand their businesses, and especially to make sure that their clients were making the best possible decision. That's what led me into the book. And then it just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And of course, at times you forget about the book for a while, or, there's other things that are going on in your life. And then last year with COVID, it was very profound that basically the day that I learned about all the things that were going to be shutting down because of this pandemic, I realized once again that not only was the financial world going to suffer tremendously, I had no idea the impact, but at the same point in time, I realized that this is a message for me to finish that book. And I embarked on that, and actually, it's you're going to probably laugh, but last Easter, a year ago, we launched a digital book. And why Easter is because the intent was to unleash humanity's full potential. In other words, resurrect the spirit of people, to empower them with better knowledge so that they can actually make better decisions for themselves and for their families. And ultimately, from Sir John Templeton, he said, when we make more money, we can share that wealth with other people who need to have a hand.
If you're just joining us, you're on Eliot Kelly TV with Richard Kiernicki, and we're talking about the capitalist's worst nightmare come true. Go ahead and smash that share button. You know how we do it. Go ahead and hit that like notification bell. When we distribute new videos, they'll come through to you first. Now, one of the things that we got you onto the show to talk about as well, Richard, is there's a lot of confusion as to how money actually works. Can you share with our audience how money actually works?
Well, let's put it this way. How about we just talk about how the banks work? Okay, and that might give everybody a sense of how let's just say fragile the system is if you're left in fear and disempowerment. So let's take an average person for just argument's sake. Let's say that somebody has $100 that they want to put into a place where they're not going to risk or lose their money. And so they ask their friendly neighborhood banker, what do you have for me that I could invest and put this money away for a year? And can I make some kind of a rate of return on that money? And the banker will say, well, absolutely. We're happy to take your money. And tell you what, we're going to pay you 1%. So on that $100 investment, after 1 year, the person would be entitled to receive $1. So what does the bank do? Well, the bank scrutinizes the person who wants to borrow $100. And in fact, the most common borrowings are for mortgages. So let's talk about the essence of, let's just say, the qualifications for a mortgage. You have to bare your soul. You have to bring all your income tax papers. In some cases, you must sign over your firstborn male child so that you can actually get a mortgage, let alone the fact that the bank actually owns the house until you're finished paying it off. But after you've gone through that process, the bank will say, well, we'll lend you that money, but we're going to charge you 4%. Okay? And you say, well, yeah, okay, because I need that money to do whatever it is that I need it to do, so I'm willing to pay that 4%. So the question becomes, how much money, what's the rate of return to the bank for making this simple transaction? So we'll take 4% that they earn at the end of the year. They'll pay 1% out, and it looks like the difference is 3%. But the reality is, from a dollar perspective, it's 300%, because $4 minus $1 leaves me $3, which is 3 to 1, which is 300%. What we also don't understand about the system is that this so-called profitability, okay, is what we're really chasing, because that's where the guarantee is. It's not on how much they're going to pay you. It's on how much they're going to lend your money out for. So now I've lent my money out and it's 300%. And now I've got fractional reserve banking where I'm entitled to only leave 10 cents of every dollar that's on deposit. And that multiplies the rate of return to more than 2,700%. So if we became financially literate, we would conclude two very amazing things. Number one, that nobody's going to lose with the bank lending out the money at that much of a spread. And the second thing is, maybe we should all become shareholders of the bank to share in those profits.
Wow.
But if everybody did that, there would be no money on deposit. So therefore, okay, there would be no money to the shareholders, to the profitability. There'd be no shares, there'd be nothing to split out, no profits to split. How do we convince, if you will, people who have been taught for, tens and let's just say hundreds of years that there's this element where this is going to actually take place? And if we actually really understood that the financial system imposes its own fears into the system, they're the ones who create the stock market crashes. When stocks plunge, there's usually a large input of people. For example, you might be familiar with GameStop of a recent perspective.
Yes.
And I hate to say this as a person who has integrity in the business, but that was one of the best lessons of capitalism that capitalism has ever learned in its existence. But it also shows what's the power of people.
Yes.
Okay. It shows what's the power of people, what they're capable of doing in the context of, let's make this right. And hence, that's why I wrote my book, because I want people to be empowered by the fact that they can make better financial decisions if they stop and actually understand what's going on. But our lives are so busy. I mean, Eliot, think about it, right? How much time do you have at the end of the day for you to research or to read or to even spend time with family? Because we're all tied into this entire mishmash of what the financial world is all about. Many people don't have the luxuries to be able to even put food on the table today. Businesses around the world have closed. Small business owners are virtually becoming extinct. There's a government bailout, which makes you feel like you've got to stay home and you can't do anything. There's lockdowns and there's all of these other things that all of a sudden, okay, are adding to the fear, so people don't know where to look. So I'm hoping that my book says that I'd like to convert to something called time equity, which means your time and my time are equal. And I know that's going to fight off a lot of people's upset. Yes. Because they don't believe that people are equality, because I'm better, my time is worth more than yours because I'm a surgeon. What about the guy who cleans the floor? Okay, yeah, people look at a janitor in a completely different way, but at the same time, if anything COVID has taught us is that we need really good cleaning staff, because it doesn't make any difference how good the surgeon is, but if his instruments are dirty or the operating theater is not absolutely 100% clean, they're making a huge potential liability for the patient.
Exactly.
So we've got to get past these titles and these things that are ego driven and recognize that truly, in fact, we are all brothers and sisters. We all bleed red at the end of the day. We must support each other. And this is why I want to change the financial system to a system of time equity, because I want people to unleash their potential without the traditional capitalistic viewpoints of, well, we've always done it this way, or we don't have enough money on the budget to do this, or we do that. And in the meantime, we're destroying our planet. We can't come up with an energy concept. We can't come up with clean drinking water for billions of people. We can't provide food and health care for everybody in society, which are fundamental things that we should all have. So my book is about the rebirth of humanity. By the way, the title of the book in its fullness is The Capitalist's Worst Nightmare Come True, The Crucifixion of Capital. But it's not about the crucifixion, it's about the resurrection of humanity. And that's why I'm so happy to sit here and speak with you, because once again, we've just passed Easter.
Yes.
Hence, I hope that the people who are your viewers today, I hope they share this message. I hope you share this message and continue to share this message, okay? Because the more that we understand collectively, the better that we can unite. And when we unite, we will unite through transparency and trust. And we can ultimately recreate democracy, okay, that gives each person on the planet the right to a vote that is actually heard and not distracted by lobbyists and people who have self-interest in the cause of our government. So I wish all of your viewers today, and especially yourself, power on. Okay, let's get educated. Let's find out what we can do, and then let's make that happen in the spirit of unity, harmony, and love.
Richard, I totally love your energy, and I can tell that you're very passionate about this subject. It's something that it's very close to my heart as well, financial literacy and financial education. Can we share with our audience then what a world without money would look like?
Yes, Eliot, that's one of the big questions that a lot of people ask me. What does it look like? Well, it looks like this. Nothing changes for the most part. People continue to go out and do what they do. Doctors will continue to go to work. Teachers will continue to teach. Homemakers will look after their home. The simple reality is that when we start to accept the fact that time is the great equalizer amongst all humanity, then the simple reality becomes our egos can slip away, because the wonderful, the possibilities that are created when you have unlimited potential, there's so much more adapted at, if you will, coming straight out of the system. We can find today all sorts of jobs for people, okay, that artificial intelligence is not capable of doing. They might be able to design a project. But look at the world in totality. We have needs for people to be in different places. And if for example, in the UK or in India, or in fact in America, if someone has, let's say, a medical degree in being a physician in India, how come they can't come to the UK or Canada, okay, and become a physician or a surgeon immediately? Because there should be at one level a global standard for every physician to be, so that that person can work in any country or any physical geographic location, wherever there's a huge need. So the reality is that even the bankers, okay, who unfortunately will not be controlling wealth, they'll be controlling the time. The blockchain, okay, and the bankers and the government to some degree, they're going to monitor the fact that you got up today and you went out and you did your work. You did the gift that God gave you. Because the majority of people today, they're not living the gift that God gave them. They're going out to work to put food on the table for their family, but they're not following their heart or the gift that they were given. And I truly believe that life is not about where you end up or where you stack up on the list of the richest of the poorest people. That's not what God gave us the power to be creative and visionary and to change our lives and to make our lives more beneficial for the lives of others. When we help others, okay, we help ourselves. My job is to try and shift the thinking of society. I don't know how long it's going to take. I might not ever see the implementation of a time-based system. But on the other hand, I also, like a musician or an artist, I feel that that was my creative edge. It took me 50 years to come up with, if you will, the idea. I don't even believe I came up with it. I believe it was a download from God through vibration, like everybody else. And I just happened to be listening and ready for it when it started to flow. And believe me, there were also times that it didn't flow. So I hope I'm answering your question in the sense of that equality that time brings, okay, allows us to find our gift. And very much like Star Trek, they'll use sophisticated things like NLP training. They'll use things like wealth dynamics. They'll use other profilings to help people find out who are they, what are they here to do, and maybe open up the inner voice that says, I want you to do this, or I would like you to do that. You know that this is what you want at the deepest level of your knowing. You know when you're getting up to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, if that's not what you really, really want to do, but you're going to go and do it because you're going to put food on the table. But if you're a musician, as soon as that 5 o'clock whistle blows, okay, you're back on your guitar, or you're on your drum kit, or you're out with your family doing the things that what life is really about. We weren't put here to work, materialize, and capitalize our efforts. We were put here to share love and peace and kindness, to share ideas, to break bread with with humanity. And at the same time, you know, it infuriates me, and maybe I'm getting a little off topic here, but when I hear that the world has a $1.8 trillion defense budget, it really just irks me to no end. There's ways I could say, let's build rocket ships instead of building tanks, and let's explore the universe. If you're going to make an effort to build something, why build something that's going to destroy something else? Why not build things that expand our consciousness, expand humanity in its most physical form to the entire universe? Why can't we get around these things? Why do we have to kill millions of people? Why do we have to have war? I'm dumbfounded. But again, I hope that through awareness and through people like yourself who appreciate that difference, that you want to stand out and have a show that talks about different ways of creating that reality that we can all truly, really become brothers and sisters on our planet.
Thank you, Richard. I've really been inspired from what I've read from your book. I'm happy to share it with our audience. Can you remind our audience how to get in contact with you or capture the book?
Yes, absolutely. And what I would love to do, if there are people who are watching who might not want to spend the money, please send me an email to richard@richardmkiernicki.com. That's my website. You can send me an email and ask for a free digital copy of the book. Provide me with your best email address. And because of your having me on your show, in turn, I will give a digital copy to anyone who asks who's watching, okay? Otherwise, you can buy the book if you want on my website, or you can go to Amazon and Kindle. Just recently, I've had an opportunity that was brought to my awareness to create a digital or an audio book, and that never really I never really thought much about it. But all of a sudden, it's a priority that's also going to happen, that we can get an audio book out so that people don't actually have to buy a physical copy, and they can download it or read it on their cell phones. And we know that communication has that capacity that all of us can share. So if that works for you, Richard M. Kiernicki is the website. Richard at Richard M. Kiernicki is where you can write me a quick note, give me your email address, and I'll send everybody a free digital copy of the book, in spite and in hopes, okay, that people will use this not only to help themselves, but to help their neighbors.
Thank you for that, Richard. We do appreciate that, and I'm sure our audience does appreciate it as well. You'd find Richard's details inside our notes section, as well as in the comments. Go ahead and smash that share button, the subscribe button. You know how we do it here on Eliot Kelly TV. Richard, what does the future hold for you?
Well, I think what the future holds for me is many different discussions that are opening up. I love even though there are times that people call me a socialist or a communist, or they call me other names with ism in it. And the simple reality is that, yes, I understand a lot better perhaps than some people that change is a very difficult thing for people to consider. But when change becomes empowerment, because you learn that things that we can do them better, then I have this excitement about me that says, yes, I'm helping create that change, so that maybe 100 years from now, people will look back at humanity at the crisis at this particular junction in our road and say, wow, now we've gotten rid of the anxiety about the financial affairs of the earth, and now we're focused much more on helping people get what they want and what they need and what we all need and what we all want. So I see nothing but great opportunity, and I hope that I stay healthy enough to live to a ripe old age and see my ideas actually implemented on a global basis.
Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us on today's show. You've definitely dropped a lot of nuggets. Our audience, you can go ahead and share if you found any value here today. Our topic today was the capitalist's worst nightmare come true. Again, Richard Kiernicki here on Eliot Kelly TV. I'm just going to leave you with a quote today, and it follows along the lines of Richard's entire ethos of helping others, and that's from Zig Ziglar. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything in life that you want. You've been watching Richard Kiernicki here on Eliot Kelly TV. Never lose your passion.